Hey there, it's Jess with MJ's Gardens and Recreation Area, and while this video is not anything to do with the actual property or anything out at the gardens or anything to do with the recreation area, I still thought it was really important because one of the biggest questions that me and Mike get asked is, what do you eat? And that is because we actually follow a keto plant-based diet, and that overall that really limits a lot of stuff. We still eat a varied diet and we try and change it up as much as possible. And I hate whenever anyone does say that, so you eat nothing, because I typically respond with, well, we eat everything except for meat, dairy, and eggs. And besides that, we eat everything else. And they honestly can't think of what that entails. So I just thought it was really important to do some of these videos to showcase some of our go-to recipes that we rely on the way that we eat plant-based keto, but also because the way we eat is actually the whole reason we started with MJ's Gardens and Recreation Area. Is we started with this plant-based diet and lent into a healthy lifestyle, and that's what we really want to share with as many people as possible. So that is exactly why we thought it's still kind of tied into what we do full-time with the MJ's Garden and Recreation Area. So with that, today we are actually going to make these stuffed mushrooms, which it's amazing that it is on the keto diet just because it's so decadent and rich and it seems almost like a treat. But it in total, so I use Carb Manager, and actually to preface that, anything that I'm saying today is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, and I'm not saying that you have to use any of these. It's just what I use for the sake of tracking our carbs, and then the brands that we use too is just 100% what we choose to use. But for 6 mushrooms filled with the filling of cream cheese and bacon, and then the over a bed of romaine lettuce is 9 net carbs and 400 calories. And so it doesn't even seem like something that you would typically eat on a diet, but we have it quite often just because of how good it is. Also, we do try and limit as much processed foods as possible and try and just eat fresh. However, there are certain recipes that do have some processed stuff in it, as well as sometimes just for the sake of convenience, because both of us do have full-time jobs, plus we do the MJ's Gardens and Recreation Area, plus we are ultra marathoners, and you know, you can have every excuse in the world, but sometimes processed foods are just plain convenient and delicious. So for today, we actually have, to do the stuffed mushrooms, is what you'll end up doing is taking out the stems of the mushrooms and just leaving the mushroom caps themselves, and you'll actually come back to those later. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on with these. And sometimes you will break them open and it's fine. You can still just stuff them. So 5 or 6 of these ends up being a meal for each of us. So today I have 6 just because they need to get used, so I'm going to use all of them. So they're going to be 6 for each of us. And so then what you do with the stems, and you'll actually chop these up, and it will be part of the filling that goes inside. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and actually I'll saute the stems of the mushrooms with some garlic and olive oil, and then what will end up happening is I will mix it with an entire container of this Go Veggie vegan cream cheese, as well as 4 slices of this Smart Bacon meatless veggie bacon strips from Light Life. So if you're counting calories too, it's really important that you measure out like how much oil you're using, because it is so high calorie. However, if you're just doing something that's keto, I usually just eyeball it just because it's 0 net carbs. So it's something that we can have on the keto diet. So it all determines on what your needs are. garlic in almost everything that I make if it's something savory, and it's another thing that I don't measure just because a typical amount of what I use is not going to be palatable for some people because I really do like garlic, and a lot of recipes only say to use a little bit, so it's another thing that I just eyeball and always throw in a couple spoonfuls of garlic. Then while the insides are cooking, what's going to go inside of the mushroom caps, I like to go ahead and get the mushroom caps started cooking. And so I just have the oven preheated to 400, and then this spray is just olive oil. We just got this off of Amazon. It's just to keep it from putting any additional chemicals in that some different food sprays can have. It's just pure olive oil that we put into it, and then you just have to pump it for the pressure. For the sake of how long the mushrooms actually cook for, so I'm not someone who is very good at either following a recipe or sticking to it every time, or really just like adhering to all of the different instructions and everything. So I know that this sucks for some people who don't cook a lot, but I just cook them until they're done. And you'll know the difference because you won't like it as much if the mushrooms are too hard. So just kind of test them and make sure that they're soft enough to kind of cut with a fork. So then I just do the garlic and mushroom stems until it starts to kind of brown and caramelize a little bit. And then you're going to put it in the bowl with the bacon and cream cheese. And what it's going to do is it's going to be warm enough that it will kind of soften the cream cheese enough that you can stir it around, but you're not going to put this back on heat. It's just going to be the stuffing for the mushrooms, and then they'll get cooked the rest of the way. Okay, so once the mushrooms have kind of cooked down and are a bit softer, all you're going to do is just put a dollop into each for the filling. And there is not a science to this, at least for me there's not. I honestly just put it till it's like stuffing full. So then you pop these back into the oven on broil, just enough to get the tops kind of like warmed up and everything, so a couple minutes. And then you would never waste the extra just because it is way too delicious. So, and all it is the cream cheese, the insides of the mushrooms, the mushroom stems, garlic, and then the vegan bacon. So we actually use the remainder and just put it directly onto our romaine lettuce. So once the mushrooms are done, we just plate them over a bed of chopped romaine. And then both me and Mike like spicy, so sriracha is on almost everything that we eat. But that's how simple that meal is. It's just the stuffed mushrooms. And again, I think it was about 9 net carbs and 400 calories for all that. And that will keep us pretty full. But if for some reason we were still hungry, we could chop up an avocado to go with it, because we eat a couple avocados here and there. We typically go through about 20 to 25 avocados a week for the two of us. So there you have it.